Welcome to the second episode of Series 63, everybody. In this episode, we are finishing up our characters and figuring out what Paragons we ended up with. Before we get to all of that, here's what to expect in our call to action.
After the show, you can join us back here for our usual thoughts about the episode, information about our Patreon, our current social media, normal episode closer stuff. Not too much changing this week, though, otherwise. But we would really like for you to stay and listen, please.
Absolutely. Until then, enjoy the show, everyone. On the last episode of Character Creation Cast, we were creating characters at a prestigious private high school called Holy Mother on the Mount, a school on a mountain overlooking a small town with a private gardens and even an amphitheater. Alex was creating the Wallflower, Augustus Francescus Whitlock III. Aram was creating a bit of a jerk and the child of new money, Bentley. Amelia was creating an artistic dabbler, Juliet. And I was creating the tech nerd of the school, Christopher. We're picking up right where we left off last time. Enjoy.
Aram, back to you.
Yes.
Your stereotype is that you are the new money kid.
Yes.
In what ways are you different from that? And this is going to be the same question to everyone. In what ways are you different from the stereotype?
So when he was a kid, back when we lived on back kind of like maybe even a little rural, right? Back when we kind of, lived before we live now, when he was very young, because his parents fell into money when he was like 5 or 6. But there used to be this creek that ran back behind their house, and he was always fascinated with like layers of sediment and different rocks and how things sat within each other. And there's still that pull, like he likes rocks, he likes to look at geodes, any nerdy things about rocks he really gets into, but he doesn't really show that, right? If it's a rock, it's going to be a diamond. Like that whole nerdy aspect of him, he's kind of pushed down and shoved away, which is also probably what maybe drew him a little bit into this group. Theater is clearly an elective, but he likes to be on stage. He has an excuse for anything that he enjoys too much.
Probably had the grow your own crystal set at home.
100%.
Yeah.
And
a rock tumbler.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. Ryan, how was Christopher different from the tech nerd stereotype?
Christopher is most at peace in the quiet gardens, like surrounded by nature, no technology, nothing to like no expectation of his expertise being utilized. Like all of that just kind of melted away into here I can just be, and that's all I need to do. This is also before the cell phones became like smartphones. So
yeah,
easier to do that.
Amelia, what about Juliet? How was Juliet different from the artsy creative stereotype?
I think that she doesn't want to show anyone any of her art. Like that is like, she paints a lot, she writes poetry, all that kind of stuff, but nobody gets to see that.
It's all in one special notebook that you've hand drawn the cover of and keep tucked underneath all of your school books. And and very much
private
like,
life journal.
Yeah.
Right. And like she's not trying to like pursue any kind of career in that or anything, because she's very much like, that's not a job. Like that's not, you can't do that.
Your folks just like really encourage journaling from a young age. It was just one of those things you always did, but it was always kind of your personal thing. And it just got more elaborate and detailed and beautiful as you went because you spent time doing it.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But no one would know.
That's for
To be
you.
like, oh, you keep a diary.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, you do it. You tried to show it to friends once, and their response was, "Oh, a diary," and you're like, "No, this is a journal." And you were so offended and so upset by it
Right.
that you've never tried again.
Right. Never. Yeah.
Kids are cruel.
Yeah, they really are.
I think Francis like has the stereotype, and people see him as a wallflower, but he's actually like he's the hot guy who doesn't know it, which makes him hotter.
Mm-hmm.
He was like always dressed impeccably, but tried like just like hunching himself over, pulling his hair down so no one would notice him, but never had acne, only ever had like very early stubble that just like made his jaw look even more chiseled.
The hot nerd brushing his hair back is the equivalent of taking off the glasses and,
Yeah,
and
it
letting
was
the hair
like-
down.
Yeah.
This is your like Princess Diaries transformation moment. Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's the way. Like, yeah, he was just. It was hard for people not to have a crush on him, but he never realized, acknowledged, and noticed about himself that he was someone that people could like.
Mhm.
When the GM's persona, when Francis invited you to the game, why did you decide to join? And we'll go Ryan first.
Oh, interesting. I mean, we're all in the drama club together. I think we've been working together, for a while before we started the game. I imagine multiple school years. Probably started in the freshman year, right?
Yeah.
And I'm guessing maybe like junior year we started this little game.
Yeah.
Which would make sense. And so I think it was mainly a way to effectively like unplug from the technology and enjoy time with people that he knows and understands more than most of the other people at the school.
Bentley is an actor. That's why Bentley is here. Bentley is here to act, not to work behind the scenes, and certainly not to paint. But Bentley is not currently allowed on stage because Bentley did something. He did something where he got pulled. He's not allowed to be an actor, not this year, maybe next year, but he pissed off the teacher just too much, or he broke some rule, but he has to still get his credit. So the only option he had was to help behind the scenes. And when he was behind the scenes, he's like, well, I could paint or I could play this game. And then just got kind of roped into that and also was interested, but of course, doesn't want to show like he likes anything too much. But he wanted to play the game. He just uses whatever excuse he has to pretend like he doesn't.
Amelia? What about Julia?
I think for her it's another creative activity, but it doesn't have the same pressure as like handing somebody something that you made, and like that kind of like judgment and criticism that involves, because it's like it's happening and everybody around you is also inputting things, and so like kind of takes some of the pressure off of that. So it's a chance to kind of be creative without having to feel worried about the criticism of it.
That's cool. I like that.
And Juliet or Amelia, what did Juliet love and hate about playing the game with the rest of the group?
I think she really loves like the storytelling part of it, and getting to kind of sort of weave all of these stories together. I think she doesn't like the fact that because it is a participatory activity and everybody is involved, that like it's not necessarily her vision of like what things should be. Yeah.
There's a number of little glowy boxes in my head that are being ticked right now.
Yeah, she's like, that's not the decision that I would have made. Like, Bentley does something and she's like, well, that's not really where the story should have gone. That's, like clearly we were all on a track to do this and you. Yeah.
I was bald.
Is that your answer?
Well, my answer?
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I think in general, Bentley reacts. And I think in general, Bentley will you would think he was ADHD, but he's not. He just loses interest really easily.
We didn't invent ADHD in 2003. It was much later. No one was autistic before then either.
Exactly. No, Bentley's Bentley is aloof. He's aloof because he thinks that's what's cool. And because they struggled for a while. His family struggled. He was just old enough to kind of get the idea that they were struggling before they suddenly weren't. And as far as he's been taught, the coolest thing to be is to stop worrying about things. He doesn't understand why that's cool or why that was a different relief for him or why his mind shifted, but he tries to just not care is what he tries to do. And that's his reaction to everything. He tries to feel like he's above it. He's one of those guys that is like, well, I have no hard thoughts on politics. I don't really go with either team. But really, it's just
I'd really love to vote third party,
Right. Exactly. He has the luxury of doing all these things.
Ryan, what about Christopher?
So Christopher loved the camaraderie and collaborative storytelling nature of the game. Really loved kind of nerding out about the lore of the world and those little details and stuff. But the overacting really grated on his nerves.
I love it.
Like every time Bentley just like, here we go again.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Love
it's
that.
Like, Bentley,
yeah, so I imagine
could you
Christopher
please stop monologuing for 5 seconds?
Right. I imagine Christopher very much being like the kind of person that's like, okay, let's define how all of these things in the world work too, because you have that kind of
he's got like
brain.
relationship maps.
Yeah.
He's got like a whole PowerPoint.
Right. And you're like, well, if they have this kind of
everything...
technology, that implies that we've had this, and this. And, you want to build like all of those nitty gritty details too.
A lot of his free time is making effectively a Wikipedia or like a wiki for this for this session.
Yeah.
The Gardens of Wikiloc.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And Bentley's just constantly saying, "Is this our problem? Do we have to solve this?
Yeah.
Is this really on our plate?"
Bentley is like definitely antagonizing NPCs for sure.
Absolutely.
Christopher 100% has a GeoCities page devoted to this. Yes. And now it's on NeoCities having been archived.
Yes. One of those old message boards that's just filled with different threads
and
about
everything.
Us.
Yeah.
I think Francis's involvement or like the buy-in in the what's loved and hated is I think he kind of loved that Juliet understood that it wasn't a singular vision, like we weren't playing according to the vision, but he hated that Juliet didn't understand that the vision was his and not hers. So we agree in the principle, but your premise is incorrect.
Got it.
I think he loved that Christopher had like the full mapped out everything, and he would use it. He would never tell him, but he would go and check that everything worked according to his plan.
Right. And you'd like go to his website to like go back and be like, what did we talk about 3 sessions ago? Like, what was that? What did I name that thing?
Full session notes. Like here's the dialogue that I remember.
Those are the best players, man. They really are.
I think he didn't hate Bentley. I think it was Bentley is what I need in the game to go and find the page in my 3 notebook notes for this next interaction. So he can go off, have a monologue. Christopher will get angry at him, and Julia is going to mediate between the two, and I will find the right page, and then we can move on.
Right.
You can always count on Bentley finding the spotlight, and that really makes it easy for you to tie some things together. Bentley's great as a character in a game. You like the character more than you like Bentley.
Yeah, that's probably accurate.
I mean, at this point, I know nothing about the character, but I'm going to go ahead and say yes.
Yeah. Christopher never openly got upset at any of the overacting. And actively encouraged it at times because he's kind of a people pleaser as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there was a lot of like subtle, like heavier sighs than normal when it happens. A little bit of like a subtle eye roll.
Yeah, the body language was like,
the body language changed a bit during those times.
Bentley's a bragger and will brag in game, but like kidding on the square, like he'll brag in game, but it feels like Bentley bragging for real. And that's just grating no matter when he does it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
What were the group's interests? Was there anything in terms of sports, TV shows, books, games, comics? What did you like? Why did you like them? We're thinking 2003. We don't have to make it historically accurate. Like if this were a full game, I might spend some time just like, let's Wikipedia the top hits of 2003. But
Lord of the Rings.
Anything that you think, was that?
Said the Lord of the Rings. It's when the movies started coming out.
That's easy.
That's what 2003 Amelia was super into.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Lord of the Rings probably would have been huge in Christopher's like mind.
Mm-hmm.
As far as activities, my uncle, right, who I spent more time with because my dad was constantly working, and my uncle was kind of a loser, but was like really good with the kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
And would take me rock climbing. I think Bentley, for some weird reason, is really into rock climbing. And he's got kind of that wiry, strong build because of it. So he's actually more physical than you would expect him to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think Francis was really into Nightwish.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right.
Heavy into Nightwish. Like peak dream would be to lose his virginity to Ghost Love Score. It's like full on.
All in. Okay.
All in.
Okay. That is so specific and I love it.
It is.
It's
been
so
a running
specific.
joke in my life since a friend of mine came up with it, and it's like, yes, that's a character right there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like 2003 Nightwish. Linkin Park would never admit it. Prefers like the epic symphonic metal than the new metal stuff. He doesn't get the spoken bit.
Mm-hmm.
He thinks it shouldn't be there. Why would you ruin perfectly good melody with rap? But yeah, Nightwish is like...
Okay, so where does he stand on like System of a Down?
He probably would enjoy
They
them,
have like
but
a
wouldn't
little
admit
more
to
symphonic stuff in there sometimes. You know?
It's like they're too inconsistent. He needs consistency. He needs the melody specifically. They're good for rhythm, but they're not good for melody.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Yeah.
It
was important to establish.
Bentley is definitely into Kraftwerks, 100%. Someone played a Kraftwerks album for him, probably his uncle, and he just dove into it. And like that's like a part of his personality now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He only wears large suits.
Amazing.
Okay.
I think for Christopher, one of his big interests are epic fantasy series.
Okay.
Has to be a series.
Yes.
He's not going to get into a book unless it's part of an all-encompassing series of novels.
There has to be at least
like
3
500 plus pages.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has to be planned for at least 3. He will read the first one as long as it's known. This is going to be a long series of books.
Yeah.
But it has to be a series.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on fantasy series from 2003.
And I'm trying to think of
but...
like, let's see.
They don't have to be real
Goth
series.
Nyx.
Well, right. I mean, you got like
I was
the
going to say, I was like, that was...
got Dragonlance.
I was reading Sabriel.
Yeah.
At that point.
I think Abhorsen
Wheel
comes
of
out
Time.
in 2003.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Artemis
Wheel
Fowl.
of Time was big back then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course, the classics.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the Harry Potter books were still releasing at that point, too.
Aragon came out in 2003.
Yes. There, yeah. Yeah. Are you like, I'm like going through because 2003, I was in 8th grade. I was homeschooled. I'm like, what was I doing at home? Like with no outside influences, nobody telling me what to do. What was I reading?
Yeah, 2003, Alex was an Italian teenager in an Italian public school, starting to learn that fantasy was a thing that existed. So it was like early Salvatore books from the Forgotten Realms, not Drizzt, the other ones.
I'm going to make Bentley so much worse. Bentley decided to play the game in the end because he had just read Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix.
Oh, no.
And that was his spark. That was his spark into fantasy. Oh, I hate this kid so much.
Okay. What I'm going to ask you now is known as a big question. Each of you gets one specific one, and we'll come back to it in a second. Bentley had something which was especially important to him. What was it? Was it dazzling good looks, a teenage lover, so like a peer lover, was everything to you, your popularity, your supportive family who encouraged you no matter what, or something else?
I think I'm going to tie back into the rock climbing thing. He's just one of those guys who is just physically gifted. He doesn't have to try that hard. He just naturally has an understanding of his body and an ability to move that is just so ingrained in his personality because he's just good at things. He can just pick up things and be good at them. He's got good balance. He runs fast. He has a decent amount of constitution without really trying. He's just kind of physically lithe.
Christopher.
Yes.
So Ryan, sorry. Christopher had a goal in life. What was it? Always just wanted kids and family, wanted to be a successful, rich entrepreneur, wanted to turn your passion into a life, or get the hell out of this town and never come back, or something else.
I'm going to say he wanted to turn his passion into a life. He wanted to kind of live and succeed off of something that he was extremely passionate about. And the technology kind of was that sort of avenue potentially. But I don't know if back then he knew what sort of like career that could go into aside from, like computer programmer or whatever, because he wanted to do more than just kind of like the quote unquote boring stuff with technology.
Amelia, Juliet had a significant gift in school, something with real potential, and everyone was aware of it. What was it? She was a hugely gifted writer to the point that she won prizes, incredible actor who starred in all the school plays, a sports star, by far the best in your school, or something else.
She was incredibly good at debate.
Sorry, say again?
I said she was incredibly good at debate. Anytime there was like any kind of argument or, like anytime they did like Model UN or anything like that, she was like incredibly charismatic.
Aram, where did we play together?
Okay, so we met at this private school. Is it a boarding school? Or is it a school you go to and then leave again?
School. We haven't really determined that.
Yeah, are we at a boarding school? Would be my first question.
Board, like weekends at home, weeks in school.
We're on a mountaintop thing that's clearly a retreat. It feels like a place we were sent, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Right, like we live there, and maybe
there was an option for kids to go home at the weekend, but not everyone took it.
I see.
So you are allowed to stay at the weekend.
Right. Okay.
If the family pays more.
Right. My family has paid more because they're too far away.
Yeah.
And they won't come every weekend. I could take a flight home every weekend. They would just pay for it, but it really is kind of a hassle. So I would say, Bentley is definitely someone that is there.
And, we're doing the whole thing against the ozone layer right now. So that's really important.
If it's this old, if it's this old kind of wooden, right? So sorry, no, if it's this old kind of in the woods, like, a bunch of stone buildings and some towers and things like that, I'd expect there to also be some wooden structures and some cabins. So further in the wood, there's these smaller cabins, maybe for music, maybe for individual study, but there's one like off to the edge, maybe overlooking the other side of the mountain. And that's where we go. We just kind of trek down to this place that's away from everyone else and kind of outside, right? We started maybe playing in the theater, but then like as we had to shift out and make room and people got tired of us taking up the back and messing with all the lights and everything, we got sent further and further out. And maybe this cabin is by the old amphitheater. So we still have some of the theater and the drama, and we can play with that there.
Yeah, I think there's like kind of cabins and stuff, because I think when it's the summer and the school is not in session, they use that as like a retreat center for like other religious retreats and things. And so there are like these kind of cabins and sort of like mess hall kind of things around outside too.
They're all wired up for their big lights for Sunday service, and so we can just flip those on for D&D. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the amphitheaters where they hold mass during their retreats. I'm assuming this is a Catholic school. I don't think anybody else.
Of course
really.
It is.
Amelia.
Right? I mean, we named it Holy Mother.
We named it like Holy Mother. I think it has to be.
Yeah. I was like, I don't think anybody else really is like that big into Mary.
Amelia, who was the smartest in the group?
Ooh.
You can say Juliet.
I don't she might be. She definitely doesn't think she is. I think I'm going to say Christopher.
I would agree.
That makes sense.
And Christopher, who was the best looking?
Oh, gosh. That's a tough one.
Bentley is striking, but angular. Very tall, very narrow. He's not necessarily attractive, but like whenever you take a photo of him and you see it later, you're like, wow, he looks amazing in this photo. In real life, for some reason, it doesn't add up to attractive, but he looks great on a cover. That kind of thing. But I wouldn't say he's the most attractive.
Well, and we've determined that Francis is like secretly hot. Right?
Totally.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking too.
I'm thinking Christopher would say Francis as well. Like, you know, he's the hot guy of the group.
Yeah,
of course.
And plus, he doesn't know it.
Plus,
Which even makes him hotter.
Right.
Yeah. And it's like when he's GMing, he's just like every now and then he just does the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just
and
like
everyone is just like, I'm not sure what these feelings are.
Even Bentley gets a little distracted.
Amelia just put her pen into her mouth and just did the whole suck on pen and head tilt, and that's the
the vibe.
Which means Bentley. Who did people pick the most on?
I mean, Bentley will take a jive at. Well, Bentley will take a shot at anyone, right? But I'm betting that Chris takes most responsibility for everything. So I think that the responsibility just kind of lands on Chris. And so if anything does go wrong, we're like, oh, Chris again. Meanwhile, everything works because of Chris.
But yeah, there's also like making fun of Chris for being so into it, even though like that's the reason that it works.
For caring so much. Yeah. Bentley would absolutely nag on you for caring too much, because Bentley can't be seen to care too much. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I think Chris is one of those people that like makes fun of himself too, along with everybody.
Yeah.
So like there's kind of this like, oh, let's make fun of Chris, but like Chris is like, at least outwardly, aha, joke's on you. This is why I suck too.
Yeah.
And
I'm laughing with you guys. I am. Yeah.
Internally, different story.
Yeah.
But as far as everybody else knows.
Yeah, I guess it is dumb that I care about this so much. Haha, you're also right.
Yeah.
Christopher, I guess, did you ever have a crush on anyone in the group?
Yeah. I think that would have manifested pretty easily, since I don't think he has too many close friends. Otherwise, like, this group is his close friends. And I think like those sorts of feelings when we're telling these intense, like dramatic stories, probably manifested at some point.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say who though.
Did it ever go anywhere?
I don't think so. I think Chris is too shy to make to like talk about those sorts of things.
Amelia, who was the group scared of at school and why?
Who is the group's what? Sorry.
Scared of. Who were we afraid of?
Does the administration know like what we are doing in our free time?
No way they know. Not at a Catholic boarding school.
There's no way they could have. Yeah, back then.
Yeah. We've got to be hiding.
So it's like at the tail end of the satanic panic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Or one of the waves, anyway.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
which one? And at a Catholic school who, yeah.
Yeah, did it ever end, right?
Right.
They probably have a group of like older students who have been around for a while that enforce the social policies, almost like
for
hall
sure.
monitors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you would have prefects in a private school.
Yeah, you would have
There's
prefects.
been a lot of times where we got close to getting caught, but like we're in theater. We've passed it off
Rehearsals.
as theatrical exercises.
Mhm. We can always make some excuse that's just weird enough where they squint and go, theater kids, but accept it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So probably so these enforcers and school administration are like
Right.
Yeah.
Each player. I need an answer. Who was your least and most favorite person in the group?
Well, I mean, for Christopher, the least favorite was Bentley,
Yeah, understandable.
I think.
Yeah.
Just that overreacting and everything. Most favorite, I think probably Juliet, because of like all the art stuff that she's like kind of gravitates towards.
Mhm.
And I think we had that like similar Lord of the Rings sort of connection as well.
Yeah.
Plus,
so
you
I
work
think
good
there was,
as
like,
a team. Like you cast, you cast the right shadows. She paints the right texture of brick. Like it's just a perfect team between you two. Yeah.
Yeah.
Aram, who was Bentley's favorite and least favorite?
Bentley. His least favorite was everyone else.
Can you do that?
Excellent. No additional questions. Amelia.
So I'm trying to map this out here. So.
Oh yeah, that's literally what I have is a little logic puzzle. I can tell you who's Francis's were.
Yeah, what's Francis?
Christopher was the favorite.
Mm-hmm.
The law keeping without having to ask for it. Christopher was never late. Christopher always is there anything I can do without encroaching on the vision? It was how can I make your vision work? Which means that Juliet, Bentley is people thought that Francis really disliked Bentley, but it was Juliet that he actually disliked because Juliet had a different story in mind from the one that he wanted to tell. He didn't quite get the collaborative aspect of the game. He got the, you are playing in my world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Bentley always wants the spotlight, but will have the spotlight wherever you want to put it.
Yeah.
He'll just chase the spotlight.
Yeah.
She's like, nope.
Bentley is a simple one.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I think that Juliet really likes Francis because she feels like they have an understanding of what the point of playing this game is that it's to tell a story and to be artistic that way. So she really likes working with, she feels very much like they're on the same page. Totally great.
I love that.
Yeah. Who do I dislike?
If you don't dislike anyone, you can also just say you don't.
You could also all dislike me.
Yeah.
Choose yourself, technically.
Yeah. It's true. Bentley chose himself. That's
Yeah, because that's Bentley's real answer, because his real answer is he doesn't like himself. But
so
the
he
answer
has
he
to
would
dislike
give,
everyone else.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to say I dislike Bentley because I feel like he's not taking this seriously.
That's fair.
I think part of Bentley wants you to dislike him because it's an emotion Bentley can understand. If he knows you don't like him, he knows where he stands.
I know what to do with that. Yeah.
Yep.
And it's prod and prod and prod until you eventually blow up and you're in the wrong.
Right.
Yet again, that's how these things happen. That's why I don't care about things, even though I make it happen every time.
Time passes and we are now adults. Bentley, that thing that was important to you, that rock climbing, that physical aspect, you've lost it. How?
I just didn't have the opportunity. Well, not the opportunity anymore. I made sacrifices. I just kept making sacrifices because I kept doing the easiest thing in front of me. I kept just being a little passive in my life because there was just paths open, and there's still paths open. Again, I'm not hindered by things because of money and, access, but because I've kind of like followed other people's money, my parents' money, I've just closed off these paths until all I'm doing is just earning money for the freedom I have to do nothing. Because I don't do anything anymore. I don't entertain myself. I don't do my hobbies. I've just closed off and found less and less people who cared about things because I wouldn't care about things. So now I just have all these people who care about nothing except our trips and the things we spend on and the things we buy and our cars. And I just don't care about it. I'm not even pretending. I just don't care anymore. And there's no real way for me to get back to anything I used to have. It's too far gone now. Like I'm not just going to, I'm not just going to pick up Meetup and meet some people and like it's not going to happen. So I have no more avenues now to get out of this rut.
Amelia, that thing that Juliet cared about, that debate, she was really good at debating, and there was a future, maybe in politics, maybe in some form of performative speaking role. It never happened. You didn't even get close. Why?
When it came down to it, she was just like too scared to do the things to like, be at that next level, that it was like, oh, I've always been really good at it. But if I try to like, get into this like special program or to like, like any kind of like branching out or anything, it's like, I might not be at the top anymore. And so I'd rather just not.
And Ryan, Christopher's thing, making, tech his passion into a life. You achieved it.
Oh.
It hasn't made you happy. Why?
I think it's because I put all of my attention into that passion that I neglected a life for myself outside of that passion. I never married, never had a long-term significant other, never had kids. Just all these like nevers kept piling up, and Christopher felt kind of stuck. Like I'm at the top of my game in this field, and people see me passionate about that, and I enjoy it, but the true happiness, my quiet place, I can't get to those anymore.
As you said, Christopher is not married. Is he dating? Is he single? Divorced?
I think he's perpetually single.
Okay.
Like he feels like if he dips away from the passion at all that he's putting into his career, that things will kind of careen off of this path that he's on.
Like those are the sacrifices that had to be made to be successful.
Yeah. And he hates every second of that. And so he just chooses not to. And he actively has, pushed people away that have gotten a little too close in the past.
Because then you don't have to face it. It's like, okay, if I just keep working, then I don't have to think about the things that I didn't do. I can see what I did.
Right.
Bentley, what about you? Married, dating, single, divorced, kids?
Divorced 7 times.
I think Bentley has that Bentley is still dating, is still like, again, like he didn't have anything, right? So the only friend circle he has is these other guys from the office that have a certain mindset. And as they get picked off and are getting married, and he's like one of the last ones left, it's now like there's maybe one single guy left and then the divorced ones. So he's now on that second swing of it. So he's part of this kind of like re-bachelorized lifestyle. He's never settled down. He's never picked anything, but he also really hasn't changed since he was in his early 20s. He's still kind of the same guy. There's been no room for growth, so there's been nothing for anyone to attach onto, and no way for him to attach to anyone else beyond just casual experiences. He had a few pregnancy scares, but he's just too arrogant. He's not the guy who was like, I'm not going to wear a condom. He's like, I'm going to wear a condom. I'm too valuable. It's like that kind of thing, right? Yeah.
Ugh.
What about
I
Julia?
could take it off if we need a prenup. That kind of asshole. Like I'm just far too wealthy to take these risks. Yeah.
What
And you
about
would
Julia?
maybe not say it out loud, but
Bentley,
you just know.
Shush. What about Julia?
Let's see. How much Amelia are we doing here?
Up to you.
You know what? We'll just lean into it. I'm about to be very real with everyone. Juliet got married and she resented it horribly. Had kids, and then realized what society thinks of mothers, which is that having children is your personality and your interest now. And just sort of like had to like live that life of like, great. So now everything about me is actually about my kids and I'm supposed to derive all of my joy from that. And so like resenting that social expectation and also feeling a lot of guilt for the fact that like she's not enjoying it, that like that isn't fulfilling for her. Sorry, children. I do still love you. Nathan and Eleanor, if you listen to this someday, I do love you, I swear.
So what would you say
acting.
is Juliet's biggest responsibility in life?
I mean, right now it's parenting her kids. That's like she's responsible for other people.
And does that,
and, keeping them alive and
her life?
Yeah.
For better, for worse? Does that regret spill into?
Yeah. Sorry, what was the question?
How does feeling that the biggest responsibility is now having to care?
Mm-hmm.
How does that affect the rest of your life? Is it for better? Is it for worse? Is like there's the regret from marrying spilling into the having to care now?
I don't think she lets it spill into like how she interacts with her children. But I do think it spills into lots of other areas of her life and feeling really kind of like lonely and empty. Like, I've had to give up all these other things to do this thing that, socially everybody was like, it's, the ultimate fulfillment. Like you don't, once you have kids, it'll be, and then realizing that like, I still wanted to be a person.
Yeah.
Same question to Bentley. What is the biggest responsibility in his life?
I don't have any. I mean, not any big ones. I'm not beholden to any one. I could quit my job today and it wouldn't matter. My family is my family, but they don't need me. No one needs me at all. My biggest responsibility is just living my life and not dragging anyone else down. As like not being, I'm not a burden. No one is a burden onto me. My job is just to continue to coast through life. That's my biggest responsibility.
How does it affect your life?
I don't have anything to compare it to. It's affected my life because I don't have anything else. There's no real lows. There's no real struggles. There's no real highs. There's just this cruising. So it's affected because it's put blinders on me to my own life.
It's like total opposite of what I've got going on. I love it.
Ryan, what about Christopher? What's Christopher's biggest responsibility in life and how does it affect him?
I think his tech empire is like with it feels like Christopher has become kind of a Steve Jobs sort of counterpoint in this reality, right? Like everything, like I'm the personality of the company.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the guy that everybody says, when I think of this company, I think of that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Right? I think of Christopher.
You always had this thing about technology is about people. It's people first. And you made them love your technology, but it's now part of their personality. So you're part of their personality. And now it's this incredible pressure to not just deliver good tech, but to deliver this hit of lifestyle. They have become accustomed to you selling them.
And to stay on top of it. And Yeah,
like I've got those like, superstar keynotes that like Jobs kind of had and all that sort of stuff.
It's
going
not
on.
you. You took on a persona. You saw what you had to do, and you took on a persona in order to do this thing, and now you're trapped. Yep. You can't get out. The persona has to become everything because you can't be anyone else now.
Theater roots that kind of primed me for this.
When the invite to this school reunion arrived, all of you were tempted not to come. What made you come anyway?
I think
sorry, please go.
Okay. I was gonna say, I think for Juliet, it was like, you know what, this is a thing that's like about me. It's, you know, it's not some kid's birthday party. It's not an office thing for my husband. It's not, you know, like this is a thing that is about me. And so I'm going to go do it, and I'm going to not bring everybody with me. And I'm, you know, not going to pack everybody's luggage and make sure that my purse is full of Kleenex. And like, I'm going to go and be an adult.
What about Bentley?
Bentley looked at the card, saw it arrive, gave a little derisive laugh, and then went to go put it down and realized in that moment that he didn't have to check his calendar. He knew he was free. He's always free. He doesn't do anything. And for some reason, that just made him decide to go. And so he did.
Christopher?
Yeah. I think Christopher like got the invite through his personal assistant, right? And like it was part of the like rattling of here's what you got in the mail, here's this invite to this thing and this invite to this thing, yada yada yada. And he's just like taking it down. And it's like, I don't want to do another thing. I don't want to do another thing. But then like he processed it later and said, oh, no, that's not a work thing. That's an invite to something that I used to love. And like he went back to the NeoCities like archive of the old website, kind of perused it, and like all those like feels of the world building came rushing back, and he's like, I need to go to this to experience that again. I need to experience me again.
So the final question of Persona Generation is, what did you think when
did
my
you
persona...
answer that for Francis though?
Yeah.
Sorry, what's that?
Francis.
Did you answer for Francis?
You have not answered any of these questions.
I was going to say, like, there's one question that gets replaced by a different question depending on the situation, which is, if we don't get to meet in person, you can move it online and say, oh, the reunion was cancelled. Why did you still play the game?
Yeah.
We'll get to that. Okay, Francis, why did Francis come? You don't know much about Francis. You kind of lost touch with them. You won't know until you meet them again that they go by Francis with an E now, just because it was a little, it's 2023. They've discovered stuff about themselves. They're not entirely sure. Like they use he mostly because it's easier for a lot of people. They don't have to explain too much, but they might tell you that actually that, if you want to use they, that's kind of fine. They've lost some of their looks. They kind of like didn't care too much. Like they didn't know that they were good looking, so they didn't know to care about how good looking they looked. So they let themselves go by conventional beauty standards and all of the accoutrements about toxic masculinity that we don't have time to get into. They probably like still, an attractive daddy. It was an attractive teenager who grew up into an attractive man who became an attractive dad. But doesn't really say much about their personal life. Still a little bit of a wallflower. Maybe kept in touch with Christopher a little bit, but it was, Christopher is so busy all the time. And yes, the importance is people, but Francis is a people outside of the tech empire.
Yeah.
And kind of gets waylaid.
I like that too, because like, you're talking about like the gender discoveries as well. And I think Christopher had similar discoveries along the way. And Christopher now would be any pronouns are fine, but only to friends. His public persona has to be he, him.
Yeah.
This is Christopher with quotes.
Yeah.
Versus Christopher, the individual.
Bentley has never questioned anything about himself. He's exactly who he was, and he still is.
Bentley had the answers to everyone else's questions.
Exactly. I knew that. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, I could have told you that years ago. Why didn't you just
In
ask
fact,
me?
I did several times.
And I think Francis's biggest responsibility in life, biggest responsibility is more of there's a clinging to that. Like, it's not a responsibility, it's more of an anchor. And Francis hasn't fully accepted that they lost everything when they left school. So the biggest responsibility is trying to get back to that, not get back to the school. Like, Francis probably has made some money, has become a donor, an alumni donor, comes from the Whitlock family after all. There are family expectations. The Gardens have to maintain the bench clean somehow.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest responsibility, I'm going to change that. The biggest responsibility is keeping the school not afloat single-handedly, but heavily contributes to keeping the school as it always has been. You have to be able to go back and remember how you felt when you walked through the school.
Feels more hands-on than Christopher's like write a check every year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, oh no, I'm on the planning, not even the parent, but it's like it's the board.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the amphitheater does not change the cabin layouts. We update this material. We do not change the layout of the cabins. The amphitheater has to look like it's crumbling exactly in the way that it looked like when we stumbled on that one step.
When Francis does fundraising calls, Francis just calls my dad. Doesn't even bother to call me, knows where the check comes from.
It's like, gets the check from Christopher, gets the, phones up the dad, and just like, and then of course there's the family endowment.
Yeah. And meanwhile, Juliet is like, I have to bake 6 pies for the PTA bake sale. I don't have time for, like, I'm focused on a different school right now.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think, like, Francis was probably behind the invites. Like, Francis was part of the committee that designed the invites to be sent out. Like, they were there to invite people to the reunion. They co-organized the reunion. So there was never a question as to whether they were going to go back. They never left in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
So, unfortunately, the reunion itself was cancelled. But Francis arranged this game to be played online instead. Bentley, Christopher, Juliet, what did you think about it?
I think Juliet was like, the whole point of the reunion was to get away, so doing something online, it's like, great, that's just like another thing I gotta do. After my kids go to bed is like the only time I have to myself, and now, you're gonna schedule something, so I think she was really kind of like back and forth on it, and then ultimately it was like, okay, I will do it because at least it's still like, friends or people I used to be friends with, or like to kind of reconnect with that pre-motherhood version of herself.
Christopher?
I think Christopher, he thrives in that like online environment, right? So it's like, okay, this is just another meeting effectively, but like he's fine with connecting with people through the internet. And he really craves connecting with people that knew him for him, and not trying to connect with like investors or trying to connect with like,
I was
people
going to say,
that he has to convince.
Like, is there like a level of relief at being online because you are such a known persona that you're like, I don't know how much I'm really going to get to talk to people that I want to talk to, like without being, like,
it's not a team building exercise. We're not playing a game to team build. We're playing a game because we want to.
Right.
Yeah. And I guess it kind of keeps it out of the public light too. Right. Which is another like bonus for him. Like if it was like, oh, Christopher, head of this company, is going on a retreat somewhere. Well, what's he doing? Like,
who's he meeting with?
Is he coming up with the next big thing? What's going on? And then there's that expectation that comes out of that, right? Oh, it must be the next big thing that he's working on.
Right. Yeah. Why else would he go to this remote, like, to like reconnect with his roots?
Exactly.
Like, what would be the point of that? And, like with these other wealthy people, like, obviously it's got to be.
Yeah. What does that mean?
Bentley?
So Bentley doesn't have a computer. Bentley like doesn't have a microphone. Bentley is in the office in the boardroom because that's the only hookup that's got a microphone and a camera and internet. So that's what Bentley's doing right now. There was like, wouldn't even know what to do, would have no interest in getting set up for it. He talked to an intern. The intern set him up Friday before they went home. And Bentley's just hanging out downtown on a Saturday in an empty office getting ready to play a game.
I like the thought that like my company's tech is
100%.
Yeah, for
if
sure.
the camera zooms in, right? Like your logo's everywhere on everything. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Oh,
Chris
God.
Tech.
Right.
But Chris is spelled with an X.
Yeah.
Get it?
Technology at the crossroads.
It writes itself.
At the crossroads of technology. Reverse that. That's better.
Yeah.
At the crossroads of technology. Yeah.
Yeah, we can't use connecting people. That one's already been used.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Please have one of your devices be called the crisscross. I just like need it to be.
I love it.
100%.
It's the XXR cable instead of XLR cables.
Okay. So the whole thing is that, originally, right? You came up with something that allowed two platforms to cross over each other and work with each other. And you were the one to figure it out, right? And then you started doing lots and lots more things. So your whole thing started with the X, but then the logo expanded to become the infinity loop. It was just a close-up of that, right? Because you got bigger and bigger, and now you do everything.
I love it.
And he is currently suing Elon Musk for the rebranding of Twitter.
Mhm.
Yes.
For sure.
Oh, wait, no, not even that. For PayPal. Because he just tried to call PayPal the same effing thing. He's been in the same plan forever. So if this is 2003, you're suing him about PayPal.
This is now 2023.
That's
Oh,
right.
you're right.
We're
Now we're in
that's right.
2023.
Yeah.
No, you're right. You're right.
But he's
This
also
is the
suing
second time
Zuckerberg
your
for the
family
Meta
has-
Infinity Loop. He's
That's
suing
right.
all of them. He's
Yes.
probably going to win.
Right.
Mhm.
I know.
They already use his tech.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's everywhere.
So this is the end of persona generation. There is an extra step that we are going to get into. In the game as played, this is where we would take a break, move away from the table and from the camera, come back. And when we come back, we are Christopher, Francis, Bentley, and Juliet. We are LARPing our way around the table.
Okay.
We are going to speedrun it. Because in that break, the GM will have a chat with everyone and decide which Paragon to assign to each of these characters. There's also a conversation you can have before you start creating characters, like, is there any Paragon you're particularly interested in? Is there any Paragon you would really not like to play? I'm going to tell you my reasoning for each of you, and then it's going to be a reveal later, unless we want to do the reveal and then I'll give you my reasoning. That is up to you.
Yeah,
I would agree
let's go
with
ahead and
that.
do it.
Let's do that. Let's do it.
Okay. So we are sitting at the table. We are Francis, Bentley. We're not at the table, actually. No, we're online. We decided that this is happening online instead. We're on the camera. We're having a little bit of a chat. You can see the backgrounds. We're all judging each other's bookshelves and the very empty background behind Bentley.
Yes. There's one of those logos. There's lit from behind.
Julia has probably had to get up a number of times just checking that the kids are actually in bed. And there's like every now and then there's just like
somebody came in because they needed a
headphones
drink
off,
of
just, like,
water.
screaming out. Yep.
Mhm.
Bentley, you're muted again. Bentley.
Oh, I'm sorry. And Bentley, you just see his hand slap the table a few times, but hear nothing. And then on the fourth slap, there we go.
And then at some point, Francis will say, hey, you remember that there was that thing I think it was in the 90s. I think it was before us, but I was reading into it and it was these kids, I think it was in the UK. They played this fantasy game and they disappeared for 2 years, 5 years. It was just like a copy pasta became a creepy pasta. Anyway, irrelevant. The point is, I found a copy of that game and I thought instead of D&D, we could play this one instead. Like, I haven't played it yet. I've read it. I've read through it. Like, obviously, I've read through everything. I've read it cover to cover. I know everything about it. But maybe we want to try this one out instead.
Bentley just shrugs. Sure.
Well, I'm always up for learning about some new mechanics.
I mean, is it going to take a really long time to learn all of that, though? Because,
no, it's actually...
my kids are going to be up at 6.
It's really fast. You get to use like a very, just like everyone has one die. And we all have a different one. And I'm just going to read through like the setup. It's like, it's called Ritual. It's like, it's really, we will like, right? Just like the whole theater thing, dramatics.
Yeah.
I feel like it speaks to who we used to be anyway.
Heathens.
Different times.
Mhm.
We were so cool back then.
Juliet,
I was always cool.
this is your die. There is no die like it anywhere else in the game. It is special. It is yours. Use it well, Dictator. And Francis hands you, through the camera, a D4. Bentley, making sure to pronounce that T.
Mm-hmm.
This is your die. There is no die like it anywhere else in the whole game. It is special. It is yours. Use it well, Neo. And hands you a D10 through the camera.
He looks at it and spins it around, does that top thing, nods, and sits back, satisfied.
Christopher, this is your die. It is special.
Ooh.
It is yours. There is no other die like it anywhere else in the game. Use it well. Godbinder. And hands you a D12. And this one, Francis holds a D20, is mine. And that is the end of character creation in Die, the RPG.
What? What?
There is another step, which is filling out the character sheets, but that's,
Right.
yeah.
And making
that's so
some
good.
choices. I did not expect Neo. I really like that
I'll
idea
give you
for Bentley.
very briefly, just because
Yeah.
this is
So
going to
can
be...
you give us like a rundown of like what they are? I mean, we
Yeah.
talked a
Yes,
little bit about like the dictator
So,
and the,
Totally.
when you hand out the die, you also hand over the character sheet, and each character sheet has some flavor text. Obviously, we're going to be talking about the character sheet later as well, in terms of like layout and what it looks like and how it attracts players to the game. The Neo is a cyberpunk in a fantasy game. They are built around the idea of this is a class that doesn't exist, but also is the class that makes the most sense to need treasure and loot and go after physical monetary value.
Yeah.
The reasoning behind Bentley having this is Bentley is an empty vessel. Bentley has nothing going on. Bentley has come into money, does not come from money.
Right.
And Bentley is always looking for the next spotlight, always looking for that next rush. And that
Totally.
is the mechanics of the Neo, in my reading of it anyway.
No, that feels right.
I love
that feels
it.
right. Where the only thing that actually matters is the money that was never his.
And the money is needed to do things.
Correct.
And I was
Yep.
thinking when you would play this is the fair gold that Bentley finds. The feeling of finding the first piece of fair gold is the same feeling of being able to climb up that circuit that you completed when you were younger. And it's like finding that physicality again.
I can 100% see that. That makes complete sense. Yeah.
I love it.
The Godbinder is, what if a cleric saw the gods as a bit of a nuisance, but still very useful tools? So you make deals with gods. You go through the gods to get things to happen. You don't bind them to your will because it's still an exchange. It's still a trade. It's still business. You get to choose one god that you are particularly tied to, but you can appeal to a number of gods, and you choose who these gods are. I've seen players use like Barbie, Ken, Hercules from Disney as their main gods. Or you could have, the Greek pantheon. You could have completely made up names. They all have properties like the god of fire, the god of the underworld, the god of the wild. But the reasoning behind Christopher having the Godbinder is you need that solitude and everything. Like people talking to you is too much sometimes. You need to unplug from that. You need to get away from that. The only way that you deal with people and the only reason you still immerse yourself in a group of people is because that's your business. That's what you have to do. You believe that people are at the foundation of your empire. You needed people. You needed other beings to give you the power that you have. But also, you are kind of bullied. And this is your way to, you make a deal. You self-deprecating towards yourself, but you accept what's coming your way, but you play it to your advantage. And Juliet, the dictator, is the terrifying bard. the bard who can manipulate people with their emotions, an artist whose performances warp other emotions, using your imagination and creativity to work out exactly what your gift can do. And, someone who didn't have a success in debate, someone who did use her words to convince other people to do stuff, someone who did get a little bit annoyed when the story didn't go exactly her way. That screamed dictator.
Mhm.
And the master is the game master, and the game master cheats. I love this game so much.
I know, I do too.
So good.
Yeah,
Oh,
I want to play it already.
it's everything I wanted.
It's just like when Ryan was mentioning like about Christopher's like, he liked the lore and Lord of the Rings and epic fantasy, and it had to be a series, and there was writing, and he could see how the world was being built around. It's like, that's just lighting up different Godbinder boxes that I have in my mind about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And then when you're handed the character sheet, you get to choose your stats. As we were saying with Aram, you get to choose your equipment, your look, and then the page that is individual and specific to each of the classes is the different powers that you get. In the dictator's case, you get to choose how your voice manifests physically and what emotion your voice plays with. In the Neo's case, you get to choose the gift of the fair.
Which is the worst part for the Neo, because they're all awesome
they're all
and you
great.
want all of them. It's so frustrating. You have to first make one choice, and now you have to make another choice, and you want everything.
And with the Godbinder, you get to choose which is the god that you have like the closest relationship to, and then name the other gods.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Oh, there is a lot of good gods on here too.
Yeah.
God of light, God of the wild, God of fire, underworld god, and eldritch god.
And there is more in the manual than there is in the character sheet, of course. And you can always just make up your own.
Yeah.
And just because you didn't pick a god doesn't mean that god won't have sway in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really good.
I think just for the ease of the Neo, I'm going to go with finger guns again. Just because it's fun. It's super fun. I love doing it. It'll be a real easy way for people to understand the character. And it's just the easiest path. It's what Bentley would do.
So just the guns, but they're in your fingers?
Doesn't even manifest a gun. He just points his finger at something, makes a gun shape, pew, and that's what he does.
Shoots. Yeah.
Yep. It shoots a big old bolt of energy. I also think he's in it. Oh, wait, no. We're not going to do our magical girl transformations yet.
We don't get to do magical girl transformation. That is part of the actual gameplay.
I know.
No.
I'll have to wait.
So after the personas, fill in the Paragon character sheets, and the game master begins the game, and we all have this additional ritual of holding out the dice, holding them in front of us, closing our eyes, counting to 3, and leaving them onto the table. When you open your eyes again, you are no longer in the room that you were in. You are back in the amphitheater, in the cabin. And around you is whatever world we have created, and the dice are glowing and twisting in front of you. And the master grabs the D20, says, "It worked," and vanishes after transforming into whatever they decided their character looked like.
It sounds like a fanfic event to work on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay.
And now I really want to play these 4 terrible, terrible people.
Right?
This is the curse of
be
this
fair,
podcast.
You're all kind of okay. Bentley's terrible.
Yeah, okay. Terribly flawed people.
Correct. Yeah, Bentley's just terrible.
Bentley is terrible, but everyone else is terribly flawed.
One of these times, I'm going to make a Neo that's nice. I didn't know this time, but one of these times I have a nice cuddly Neo, and I'm going to take the pet. That'll be my first pick, because having the little cyborg dog is pretty cool, or like a parrot, like a little robot parrot that can talk to you and hack into things. Oh, that'd be awesome.
So I would like to, if we have a moment, go through kind of our selections on here.
Yep.
Just so we can kind of explain to the people listening at home
Sure.
Kind of what this looks like without seeing the sheets themselves.
Okay. I've got mine all filled in if you want me to start.
Yeah, might as well.
So I have a Neo sheet in front of me. Bentley is playing the Neo who uses technology, this alien, super advanced technology, and is given a gift of it. The gift that I have chosen to accept, or the gift that I would have been given in-game, is gun. Just straight up gun. That's all it says. And then I get to choose what that gun does. But I've also put points into stats. We all have 2 points in every stat. That's how we begin. We have 2 extra ones to spend. Neo's like points in dexterity and intelligence. Dex to do their, super cool Neo things, and intelligence to be able to operate their technology and to interface with more of the, searching and map-like features of it. And also, I think, to boost their technology, like when they get fair gold, they roll intelligence too. Is that right?
You can use intelligence to actively hack reality around you if it has a technological element to it, including some of the creatures that you encounter through the game.
I would say Bentley puts no points in intelligence. He has an intelligence of 2, and he's going to put both of those points in his dexterity. So he is now even more lithe and faster than he ever thought possible. He has hit a human thing that he didn't see. Like maybe if he had really focused his body, he could have gotten nearer to this. He just never bothered. And now that he sees what it's like it will flip his mind and it'll transform how he's thinking, because this is something completely different. His body is now superhuman.
As a result of the stats being chosen that way.
Right.
As Aram said, all stats start at 2. You get 2 points to allocate anywhere. With everything going in dexterity, that means intelligence is still 2, which means that willpower for Bentley is 4, which is wisdom plus intelligence. On the character sheet, there are 4 individual spaces for each of the additional stats, which are results of what you make in either the ability choices or in the equipment choices. So guard, which is equal to dexterity, which is basically a halo energy shield that resets with every encounter and is equal to your dexterity. Health, which is equal to your constitution, that doesn't get affected until your guard is 0. Willpower, which is what it says on the 10, which is your wisdom plus your intelligence. And your defense, which is how hard it is to hit you. And the mechanical effect of that is the number that you have in defense is the difficulty that creatures need to beat to hit you somehow.
And defense comes from gear. Everything else comes from a combination of stats. Defense is just about gear.
What about Ryan? What has Christopher chosen?
Right. Christopher. So I chose a boost in wisdom, push it up to 3, and a boost in charisma, kind of pull it in from that real world, charismatic leader of this company.
Okay. Yeah.
Or so. And for equipment, I had a few choices here, but I went with worn leather gear, dagger or knuckle busters. Probably a dagger because it's more utility at that point. A set of knives in a carefully concealed hiding place. But then for my look, I went for a beatific holy seer, looking for peace. And the god so there's a lot of different gods that you can choose from. And the god that he has a level 1 relationship with is the Eldritch god, Clixis. Klxiss.
Okay.
Clixis. That allows me to summon an unholy blade of eldritch design. This kind of lets him summon that rage he's been kind of holding on to his whole life.
Do you mind reading the full description of that blade?
Oh, yes. Summon an unholy blade of eldritch design to inflict a wound on yourself and gain a number of advantages equal to your level in the god on your attack.
Just as context, a wound is directly on your health, and your health is currently 2, meaning that you can use it twice before you are no more.
Right.
Yes.
Might as well.
Yeah. It's an eldritch god.
I know. So yeah, if the hit kills a living target, remove 1 debt to the Eldritch God.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I started naming some of the other gods. Felborn, the underworld god. Gorinth, the god of fire. Haven't got into the other gods yet, but
yeah,
I'm excited for that.
Something that is interesting about the Godbinder sheet as well is if you look at the scriptures, which are the spells that a Godbinder can cast, it says things like noun blast and detect noun. Those noun variables can change every time you cast them as long as they are related to your god. So it could be detect eldritchness. It could be detect tentacle. It could be detect void. So anything that relates to the god, and you can change it every time you cast it. So tentacle blast, void blast, eldritch blast, if you wish to go that way. But yeah, as long as it was my first dungeon. No, it wasn't my first dungeon. Was it? It was my first dungeon.
I think so.
It's one of the podcasts that had detect narrative relevance. It was the God of Fate.
Yes,
and that was
my first dungeon.
Very clever.
I like that one
so
a lot.
So is it the same noun for blast and detect?
Nope.
Or
literally, that is a variable that you choose to fill in every time you cast that spell.
Okay.
So you can just have a list of different things, and whenever you feel it's appropriate to use one noun versus a different noun, you can just choose it in the moment.
I like that.
Amelia.
Interesting.
What does Juliet as the dictator look like?
So for her stats, I increased intelligence and charisma because it felt like that made sense.
Yep.
All the other stuff is at 2. For equipment, I picked, because I am me, Amelia, magical death touch.
Of course.
Oh, how can you not?
Staple of dictator.
Come on. I mean, you could have a gun, I guess, but no, you could have magical death hands. Yes, please.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's like you can have a bow or pistol and a dagger. And I was like, or I can have magical death touch. I don't
Thank you.
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
And as far as my look, I picked something else, and I said it's sleek, soft, and dark. So
nice.
I have an image of that in my head, but I don't know how to describe it. Other than sleek,
and this is where
dark.
the magical girl transformation would give you that full description of how Juliet, as the very tired mom, becomes Juliet the dictator.
Yeah,
it's like that. It's like that scene from Sing. Like that. That's the reveal.
What is the emotion that Juliet plays on?
Ryan, I want you to guess.
Oh, interesting. I'm gonna say, is it the one on the inside there?
It's any 3 on the spoke.
I didn't know I could pick 3.
So it's any 3 like in the same spoke. So
okay.
all of those
those
like 3 emotions for each spoke are the ones that you can play with.
Checkbox. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So I would probably think probably either like maybe rage or vigilance.
You're wrong. I picked grief.
Grief. Yeah, that works too.
Yeah. So I was like, that sounds fun. And by
that
fun, I
one's
mean
straight
not
from
fun
the comic too.
Sadness and pensiveness.
The emotion knight in the comic is also an emotion knight of grief, and so you're playing on the other end of it, but yeah, that's a big emotion to play with.
Oh, that's good.
And and a dictator can both force people to feel or force people to not feel a specific emotion. So it could be grieve the loss of this battle versus think about what you should be doing, which is the pensiveness, and then just be sad that you just lost. And that will affect how the characters around you will behave accordingly. But what's the tell for Juliet? What happens physically to Juliet when she uses the voice?
She starts to kind of become translucent.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
It's like a little bit of a shimmery quality.
I'm also not going to do gun. I'm going to do teleporter. That makes more sense for Bentley.
Yeah.
Bentley would just get out of the way.
So teleport is you teleport. Short distance teleportation. And when it's activated, you what do you choose as the upgrade?
Optic teleportation. He wants to go anywhere he can see without effort.
There we go. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, that's fair. Francis, as the master, has, according to the rules, 2 strength, 2 dexterity, 3 constitution, 3 intelligence, 2 wisdom, 2 charisma, giving him 5 willpower, just to resist Juliet a little bit more.
Yeah.
Except my willpower is also 5.
Nice.
And in terms of equipment, he probably would have chosen a huge tome, which is very uncannily like the notebooks that he used during the campaign in high school. And is wearing full Saruman the White after the, but white is made up of many colors scene. So like iridescent white cloak with big spiky shoulders, because Nightwish is still a thing in Francis's mind. So it's very much like Saruman the White, but make it more evil.
I like that that's like the complete opposite of mine again too, though, because mine is like black and like it's like kind of like rippling fabrics and like
And then the master doesn't get to choose any specific powers, because the powers are assigned to the master when they're being played by the GM. Wow. There is a way of playing the master as a player. It's a little bit more complicated because you have to choose the way that your scriptures affect reality. But in this particular case, Francis has 3 cheat tokens available at the beginning of the session, and will gain 3 more with each session until the final confrontation, where they will have to discard every cheat token until they have as many as there are other players in the game.
Yeah.
Interesting. I have to say one additional detail that I didn't say about Christopher's Paragon. They go by Chris with a K because they are idealized in a femme presenting individual with like she, they pronouns.
Awesome.
I really want to play these characters now.
I know. I like them a lot.
There's a lot of theatrics that haven't happened.
I know. I know.
And they never will.
It's such a struggle. It's such a struggle.
I know.
We really did not think that through before we started this show.
We did, but we just didn't think.
I don't think we thought it would be this bad.
As torturous.
Yeah.
I knew it would be. Initially, Dylan didn't want an AP part of Kill Every Monster, just the discussion. I'm like, there's absolutely no way we can do that. And we can't. No. We have to have it. Plus, I need to have some fun. So we're going to have to do this.
Absolutely. Oh,
I love these.
Is that it? Did we make our people?
Yeah.
We did make our people.
That's our people.
Oh.
So good.
And I'll get you these sheets too. So you have them. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
Thank you both so much for doing this with us for our Die RPG character creation. This was phenomenal. I love them. They're terrible. It's so great. It's so great. It's everything I wanted.
I don't know. Are they sad little meow meows or are they baby girl? We'll have to play them to find out.
Yeah.
We'll never know.
Bentley will find a way to be sad.
Bentley is already a sad meow meow.
There's a lot of sadness.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if they all went to Catholic school as teenagers.
Yeah, we weren't getting out of that one.
Sorry, guilt was nowhere on my emotion wheel, so.
Grief, I guess, is close enough.
It's, right. Yeah. There's no like regret, is there? I don't know.
You have to have that level of regret with your character, that level of things unfinished, so that there's a reason. So that there's, otherwise you'd just be like, oh no, we're leaving.
Right.
We're not going to, no, this is ridiculous. So we all agree, goodbye. And we all just leave. Like there has to be a longing to stay. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
But this was, every time I run through character creation with this, it's always fun. I always feel like one of my first players said, I feel like I know the people in this group more than if I had had a conversation with them.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And that is exactly how I feel with 2 people I have just met and one person who I have begrudgingly met multiple times.
I
We have to play the Dylan part.
Yes, you do. I ran this game on Start playing just the other night, and part of that group was a person who not only had never played that game before, but had never played any TTRPG game before, and leaned towards the dictator and was amazing. So this is one of those games where it just gives you a stage and opens you up. And by the time we were done, we felt the same way. We all know each other. We're comfortable. It makes you feel like you are that group coming back to play a game again, even though you aren't. The game just has that quality and builds it so nicely.
Yeah. This was, it was so good. It was so good. There's going to be so many notes that, Do you both want to remind everybody where they can find you, what you're up to, all of that kind of stuff?
My name is Alex, pronouns he, him. I mostly am found, despite myself, online as Alex V or alexv.fyi. You can also find me in the tiny writing in the back or inside the cover of books when people remember to name the translator.
And my name is Aram. My pronouns are he, him. I am the creator of God's Fall, the co-producer of Kill Every Monster, and you can find everything I do and everything I've made at aram.gay.
So good. It's so good. Yeah.
It's such a good website. And thank you to everybody for listening. Please join us on the next episode for what's going to probably be an amazing discussion block about this game.
Truly. Yeah.
Call to action.
Yeah, like that. This was a fun one. It was fun to finish up our characters, find out a little more about them. I really loved all of the classes that Alex assigned us.
Yeah, that was such an interesting experience getting those classes kind of dished out.
Yeah.
Without expectations that A, that was going to happen. And B, not knowing what we were going to get,
Yeah. Yeah.
It was so interesting.
But I think we were all pretty happy with what we ended up with.
Yeah.
It felt, and people will hear more next time in our fan fiction section too, but they really did end up fitting with our character arcs and what we wanted from our characters and stuff. So
yeah.
I really like this game.
It's such a good game.
Yeah. We're going to be playing it.
We're going to be playing it.
Not for a recording, no.
But
and not
for a
these
recording.
Characters, no.
Yeah. But
just for funsies.
And together.
I know.
It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm really looking forward to it too. I want the feels to happen. So it feels like this will be a good group. Alex feels like a very sadistic GM potentially for this game.
Yeah.
So I'm sure Alex will be able to pull on the right levers to make the emotions happen.
Yeah.
So really looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be, good.
Yeah. So stay tuned. Maybe we'll talk about that in some of our chit chats as we go through the game, because good Lord, there's going to be some decompressing. I'm sure that's going to be going on.
Probably. Yeah. We'll need to figure that out. Yep.
But before we let you all go for the day, here are our normal calls to action.
With Twitter on its last legs, X, whatever.
Yep.
We are kind of setting up shop in various other places. We're going to see where the dust settles and where we end up. But currently, we're most active right now on BlueSky and on our Discord. We'll still be on Twitter, so you can keep up with us there while things aren't fully burned to the ground. I know I'm kind of using it less and less lately, I think.
Same here.
But for now, if you have a BlueSky invite, you can find us there under Creation Cast. I am Ginger Reckoning, and Ryan is Lord Neptune. I am Ginger Reckoning almost everywhere. Ryan is Lord Neptune or Lord Neptune RB most places. And you can find us on our Discord at discord.charactercreationcast.com. You can also keep up with us through our monthly newsletter. You can sign up on our website or by going to newsletter.charactercreationcast.com.
And if you enjoy what we do here on the show, you can really help us out a great deal and get yourself some really good stuff by heading over to our Patreon at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. All patrons get access to special all-patron Discord channels on our Discord, bonus chit-chat episodes every week, as well as shout-outs on the show. And higher tiers, you get things like bonus episodes, dice, stickers, and a lot more. There's a lot to offer, and every little bit that you are adding to that is really helping us create the show. So please check it out if you have a chance.
If you want us to thank you personally every episode, don't forget to sign up, and we can read out your name during our call to action like we're about to do right now for our recurring patrons. As usual, Lieutenant and DJG, aka Tigranosaurus, thank you for your continued support.
Eric Bonds and Daryl Holiday II, thanks for believing in us.
Shadim Cabal and Shias Barbarian, thank you for your support.
Thanks, Benjamin Sweeney and Lorcan McInnes. So glad to have you backing us.
Thank you to Rob Fletcher and Kevin Brown.
Many thanks to Tentacle Duck and Cole McCallum.
Thank you to John Adamus and the bombastically baritone baristas. I love this. Please continue to change this every week. It's amazing. We couldn't do it without either of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos Salazar and Eric S. We couldn't do this without you either.
Ross Kingston and Ian Popmeyer, thank you for helping to make all of this possible.
Grace Bergeron and Sorry Goth, thanks for supporting our dreams.
Liam G. and Brian Colm, thank you for helping us make this show.
Thanks as well to Garden GM and Dark Mirror.
We appreciate your support. Tom and Blue Kryptonite, thank you.
Thanks, Nicole Trainer and Danny. So glad to have you backing us.
Liam Murray and Satwant Kangura, thank you also for supporting us.
And thanks to all of our future supporters, you are helping to pay for everything we put into the show and contributing to a growing and supportive community. If you want to help out in non-financial ways, talk about us on social media or join us on our Discord at discord.charactercreationcast.com and chat with us and others in the community.
You can also leave us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, Podcast Addict, or even Facebook. We read all new 5-star reviews out here on the show, and thank you personally. We don't have any new reviews to read for today's episode, which is a bummer. But if you leave a review, you'll be at the top of the list, and we can read it next time.
That is all that we have for this episode, everybody. Join us on our next episode where we get to discuss all the cool stuff that we did in the series, as well as some really, really good fanfic for these characters.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Until then, take care, everyone. Stay safe out there. Drink some water. Look out for each other and keep making those amazing people. We'll see you next time. Character Creation Cast is a production of the One Shot Podcast Network and can be found online at www.charactercreationcast.com. Head to the website to get more information on our hosts, this show, and even our press kit. Character Creation Cast can also be found on Twitter and BlueSky at CreationCast, or on our Discord server at discord.charactercreationcast.com. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Bolter, and I can be found on Twitter and BlueSky at Lord Neptune or online at lordneptune.com. Our other host, Amelia Antrim, can be found on Twitter and BlueSky at Ginger Reckoning. Music for this episode is used with a Creative Commons license or with permission from the podcast they originated from. Further information can be found within the show notes. Our main theme music is Hero Remix by Steve Combs and is used with a Creative Commons license. This podcast is owned by us under Creative Commons. This episode was edited by Ryan Bolter. Further information for the game systems used and today's guests can also be found in the show notes. If you'd like to support our show, find us on Patreon. Get access to bonus episodes, exclusive merch, and much more at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. Thanks for joining us. And remember, we find that the best part of any role-playing game is character creation. So go out there and create some amazing people. We'll see you next time.